Here we go again. Another day, another question about bribery and corruption involving the Clintons. Now, understand that this isn't a Benghazi-like fake scandal. This isn't a bullshit right-wing conspiracy. This is essentially a real scandal of corporations paying the Clintons, and they're doing it for access. They're doing essentially pay-to-play. So we reported yesterday that David Sirota discovered over at the International Business Times that big corporations were paying Bill to give speeches at the same time that Hillary's State Department was giving them contracts and doing favors for them. So the idea is they set up this system where Bill would get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and give a speech at a corporation, and then as they're paying Bill, they're filling out the paperwork to put an issue in front of the State Department to ask Hillary Clinton for special subsidies or special breaks in one way or another. And it just so happened that, most of the companies that were paying Bill for speeches got access and got favoritism at the State Department. So that's a huge story, and this is not something that is some sort of right-wing horseshit thing that they made up. No, this is like real corruption, real bribery, and they're just barely skirting the edges of the law here by playing the old, like, what do you mean it's my husband? It's not me, Hillary, that took the money. My husband took the money and it came into the family, into our joint bank account, but it was my husband that took the money, and then I did favors that were totally unrelated to what was going on with my husband. So this is a serious problem, and, every Democrat that has a backbone and every Democrat that is moral should stand up against this and say, what's going on here? This is the person that we really want getting through the primary and being the next president. Slam on the brakes. Pump your brakes, because it doesn't look too good. So we reported about that, and then last week, the New York Times found this, quote, Canadian mining financier Frank Giustra has donated millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation and sits on its board. Clinton helped Giustra's company secure a lucrative uranium mining deal in Kazakhstan and in return received a flow of cash to the Clinton Foundation, including previously undisclosed donations from the company's chairman totaling $2.35 million. Holy shit. So now it's not even like loose stories that describe a flow of money to the Clintons and then, favors happening at the same time, but, you can't really piece it together in a concrete way in a court of law or something like that. But with this story here, no, now we're getting into the realm where you can. Now we're getting into the realm where it's, okay, this guy paid Bill for access. Bill did some favors for him, pulled some strings in Kazakhstan, because Bill knows people everywhere, and he was able to get this guy a gigantic deal as long as this guy keeps feeding money into Bill's foundation. And in some cases, like we were talking about before, they just give it directly to Bill himself. So again, for Democratic apologists or Democratic loyalists out there who might bend over backwards to try to defend anybody who's a Democrat because there's a D in front of their name, how can anybody defend this? We're talking about a level of corruption that is equal to, or in all seriousness, maybe even above a lot of the stuff that we see on the Republican side of the aisle. Don't get me wrong, they're all corrupt on that side of the aisle, that's obvious. But Clinton has like another level of fame and a whole nother level of being in bed with the establishment because he was a former president and he just knows everybody, that he's just raking in cash from everywhere and making all these backroom deals. So I'm still not at the heart of the story from today. I'm just giving you guys the story we covered yesterday and a story that the New York Times reported on last week. Now here's the new scandal from today. Quote, there are 1,100 undisclosed foreign donors to the Clinton Foundation and to the Clintons themselves, and they gave to the Clintons through Canada, through an affiliate in Canada, and they did that to skirt transparency laws. And some people, foreign donors, gave hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, everybody who's listening to this show, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you know damn well that we are on top of the issue of corruption and bribery and money in politics. It's one of the main things that we talk about endlessly. So we are the first ones to point out when you have any politician, Democrat or Republican, taking money from a multinational corporation or a billionaire like Sheldon Adelson or Foster Friess or whoever, and then lo and behold, they turn around and do favors for them, and they end up implementing the policies that those people want. So we're on top of that when it's happening domestically. But in this case, what we're seeing is a legitimate concern about it happening internationally. So again, it's not just like, okay, there's some American citizen who's a billionaire who's giving money and getting favors. With the Clintons, specifically because of their foundation, but also because of the speeches Bill gives, they end up putting themselves in a situation where they really do owe favors to either foreign governments or foreign billionaires or people all around the world. I mean, you want to talk about a family that is just, it really is inter-frickin' national. Well, they know the power elite and the establishment all around the world, and they've been taking money for their foundation from all around the world, and he's been giving speeches all around the world. And believe you me, all the people that are giving Bill Clinton money or giving his foundation money, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. They're not doing it solely because they believe in altruism and they want to give to a charity. A million other charities out there. Why would you go directly to the charity for the former president and a person that you know and that you can talk to if you're a billionaire? Well, you go to that person because you know the way this works. You know that they are a powerful political family in America. They're basically a dynasty family. And what happens when you give them money? They remember they're going to look out for you when they get a position of power. You're talking about a former president of the United States of America. You're talking about Hillary, a former Secretary of State and a senator. I mean, very powerful people with very powerful connections. And they're taking that money with strings attached. So all of the chatter and all the talk about, look, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, they're stretched out all over the place. They owe so many people favors, and they're not going to look out for the American people. They're going to look out for all of their donors. I think that's totally true. Now, still, I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. If it comes down to Ted Cruz versus Hillary Clinton, I think you all know who the fuck I'm voting for. If it comes down to Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, asshole Mick Assholerson, who is basically everybody in the Republican Party, yeah, I get it. For the Supreme Court alone, you need to vote for Hillary. On social issues alone, you need to vote for Hillary. So don't get me wrong. I'm on that page. But the whole purpose of me giving you this story, number one, is to get the facts out there so you understand what's going on. And number two, to say, for fuck's sake, let's primary the shit out of her. So Bernie Sanders just announced that he's running. Oh my God, all the media should be covering this nonstop. They should be talking about his policy positions and how his positions line up with the American people. They should be talking about how, you know, this should be, in any rational world, a real contender against Hillary Clinton. But of course, the media is going to shut out the Bernie Sanders of the world. They're going to shut out other progressive voices, and they're going to focus on Hillary. But my job is to come out here and tell you, don't believe the hype. Hillary Clinton is not going to represent you nearly as well as a Bernie Sanders would or an Elizabeth Warren would. Elizabeth's not running, but nonetheless, virtually any other progressive candidate, actual progressive candidate, would be better than Hillary, not just because of their policy positions, but also because they have more of a backbone and more of a moral compass, where they haven't been taking money from billionaires and foreign governments for so goddamn long, and they owe them favors.